Hi, and welcome to the Spark The Heartz podcast. My name is Lizzie, and I'm an intuitive energy channel and a Reiki practitioner. This podcast is a safe space where we talk about spirituality, energetics, cycles, rebirth, and so much more. So while I'm in your field of awareness today, I hope you tune into the frequency of this episode with an open heart and a new sense of curiosity. As a reminder, you're a sovereign being, so take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome to episode 8. This week's episode is going to center around divine protection on a different level. What I mean by on a different level is I'm going to give you my intuitive take on it, my personal experiences, and how setting my intentions really highlighted my divine protection on so many different levels. Originally, the audio that you're going to hear on the first half of this podcast I recorded back in February of this year. And at this point, I had not been talking about creating a podcast to anybody outside of my husband. And I explain why, but I'm going to play that clip first. So stay tuned. Also, there will be a card pull for this episode, but I'm going to put it at the end of this episode just because I feel like in my heart, there are messages that need to get through first as far as divine protection and intention setting, and just being intentional with the work that you do and recognizing how that flows for you, not just from my personal experiences, but I hope that while you're listening to this podcast, you can connect to times where you've had an intention and somehow you put it out there, sent up that energetic invitation to work with the universe, to work with the grand creator, to work with your guides, and everything just synchronously started to line up. But through the process, it's like you felt like you were untouchable in the sense that everything was going to work out, even if it wasn't making sense, even if it got a little uncomfortable. You were being heart-led. And so this podcast episode, my intention is to connect you with divine protection in a way where you can recognize it in your own life and you can tune into how you've set intentions and kind of seeing that flow of divine protection come in, because I feel like it hits us all at different levels. But I know, at least for me, when I'm listening to a podcast or I'm listening to a YouTube video or I'm watching it or I'm seeing stuff on social media or I'm reading a book and it's talking about how everything is just so divinely timed, a part of that is like that divine protection that gets you there, and it unfolds so differently, like I said, for everybody else. But I'm gonna play the clip that I had recorded back then now, and then just stay tuned for your card pull at the end of this episode. I just want to set the intention of connecting you with the frequency and the energy of divine protection. And to be completely transparent, I have not pulled the card yet. I'm just going to go with, at the end of this episode, I'm just going to trust that whatever card comes through is a message for you guys that is timeless. So let me have you guys tune into that audio clip first, and then we'll get into the rest of it. Hi. Today's podcast centers around divine protection. How to tell that you're protected, and at what levels can this protection come in? How can it feel like, look like, and how can it manifest? And what really inspired this topic for me today was the simple fact that I was interacting with a friend via text. And it was really interesting to see how there were certain messages that weren't coming through and certain other ones that were. And I just kind of took it as whatever has to come through will come through, and what doesn't have to come through, maybe I'm in the state of where that information either needs to stay with that person until it's finished playing out, or also to protect me from overgiving information into their process of digesting where they're at. Because I feel like when we have a two-way conversation, there's a receiving and a giving. And it's almost like this topic didn't need to receive anything. And there goes my phone. Let me put it on mute. So as I was saying, 144, there's a giving and receiving in a conversation. And sometimes some conversations aren't needing that input, aren't needing to be heard just yet. And I feel like this was an aspect of divine protection. And it's not always in a negative way. It's just sometimes there's a process of creativity. There's a process of somebody being in a season of change. And outside guidance or outside perspective isn't needed just yet, or may not even be needed. And I say this because as this interaction was happening and they're describing to me, like, I'm trying to send you this, I can't send it to you. And I go, oh, it's okay, you know? I'm at home, I have Wi-Fi, so my connection is good. So I don't know where they're at. But the funny thing is, I was looking at my phone and I had my right hand on the table and I saw this white energy, like maybe 1 to 2 inches away from me. And I said, interesting. And it kind of lifted off. And then just like a moment later, then I see this white energy by my heart. And it's almost like, oh, okay, this isn't by chance. It's like this energy letting me know I'm just here to help guide your hand, your right hand, be your right hand, and protect your heart. To see that helped me to understand that there's something much bigger at play in this interaction. So because of my experience of seeing my team kind of show up and let me know, like, oh, hey, we're here. We're going to be your right hand right now. We're protecting your heart. By not allowing this level of the conversation to continue to a certain degree, only some things have to come in, but not all of them will, and that's okay. And so I kind of took it as, this is what divine protection is. Because I'm also in a space of creation. As I'm recording this podcast, I've literally only told my husband about it. I haven't wanted any outside opinion. I haven't wanted anybody to be in the mix. I asked some questions to get some guidance for myself as far as like to see an outside perspective of what my gifts and talents are. Trust me, I'm getting to the point. But this also goes with it. It's like knowing when it's time to share and knowing when it's time not to share and who you can and can't share with. Not to say that you can't share with friends or family, but sometimes in the process of creativity, at least for me personally, when I'm creating an art piece or when I'm creating something in my journals, my husband doesn't like impose on my energy in any way that makes me feel like he's poking at me energetically. Whereas I've been in my home as a kid and I've been drawing in my journal or painting something. And I feel like somebody, like either my siblings or my mom would pass by my room, but they would poke their head in and I could feel their energy kind of like wanting me to answer something for them, wanting something back from me, and it's just very disruptive and takes me out of the flow. Whereas I feel like when my husband's energy is in my field, it doesn't feel intrusive. It doesn't feel uninvited. It doesn't feel distracting in that manner. If anything, it just feels like, oh, she's doing something cool. Let her do her thing. And it feels really safe to be there. And it feels safe to have him in my field and not feel encumbered by that. And so this is what I'm saying when I say I started this podcast and I chose to do it in a way where I'm not oversharing through my creative process because I don't want it to be, in a sense, saturated with somebody else's energy or opinion of how it should or what it could be or what. I don't want that in my creative process. I want it to naturally flow out of me in a way where I can have this container of creation and let it be raw, let it be whatever it wants to be while I'm molding this clay or molding this podcast like if it was clay, and letting my imagination fly and letting spirit come in and guide me and have each episode be something that is gifted to me, whether through meditation, whether through connecting with my guide, whether through setting intentions beforehand and always connecting to to my purpose of even starting this podcast, which is creating a space where people can feel heard, seen, understood, and talking about spirituality, cycles, changing, rebirth, and so much more in a way where we can be truly open about it and ask the questions and talk about some heavy subjects without them feeling so hard to understand, or some complex subjects, but have them hit the field in a different way where it's more grounded in this reality, where the magic can flow in and you can see the magic of your daily life too. So what I'm trying to say here is I feel like I was called to keep this in a bubble for so long because I wanted to mold it into something that felt right and not forced or skewed by somebody else's outside vision. Through doing that, I feel like I gained a lot of divine protection because I had decided early on to do it that way. And I remember having conversations with my friends and them asking me like, oh, what are you up to? Like, what is this? And I was just like, you know what? I'm not ready to share that yet, but when I am, I'll let you know. And as I'm recording this episode, this isn't something I have shared yet. And I like that because it takes the pressure from people anticipating something from me when I'm not ready to share. Aside from divine protection, I feel like there's a part of divine guidance with that, because I felt called within my heart to just keep this as something that's still a process of creation and still something very precious, like a piece of artwork. I'm not ready to show the final piece. And when I am, the people that feel called to look at this art piece, hear this podcast, tune into it, allow it to be in their frequency, in their field, will gain the transmission of the color of my voice, the color of the conversations, the feelings that it invokes within you. And I feel like that is also a process of divine protection, because knowing when to share and not to share is a big thing. I feel like having this text message of exchange with this friend helped me see that for myself right now, and how divinely protected I am when it comes to my creative processing and learning how to speak up and say things and use my physical voice in this physical world to call that energy in for myself. So I feel like that's one way of knowing that you're divinely protected, is being able to feel comfortable with using your voice and not using it as well. And I want to stop for a second because I feel like I've done so much talking, but I haven't explained what divine protection is. And being the Libra that I am, the Libra sun, and the Sagittarius rising in me, and the Cancer moon, I feel like there are aspects of myself that love to break down things. And I love words. I love the frequency of words. I love how in depth they can be, what the meaning is behind them, and what meaning we can give them, not only as an individual, but a society and as a group. So I'm gonna give you the definition of divine, and I'm gonna give you the definition of protection. And then I'm gonna spin it off and give you my intuitive version of what divine protection is from my intuitive lens. And it's gonna encompass physical, mental, emotional, psychic, and spiritual, because I feel like divine protection is this overall umbrella. It doesn't just do it in one area. It does it in all areas of life. It is how much we welcome it in for ourselves and how much we allow without unrealistic expectations, but just an open heart. So let's get into it. Okay, so the definition of divine protection per textbook, I'm going to split it up in two separate words for you guys. Divine is of, from, or like God, or a God. The root word of divine is the Latin word divus, which means God, or of, or belonging to a God. Now the word protection has the root word protect, meaning to keep safe from harm or injury. And adding the ION is usually signifying a action or state. So this is God-like action to protect an individual from any type of harm, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual. Divine protection really can be encapsulated as being this, how I'm seeing it in my mind's eyes, like this pill that hits all four bodies. It's not discriminatory in any shape, form, or way. It's meant to be there to assist you. And I feel like having that knowing that the grand creator, that your team in spirit, that there are forces that are very active in this world that are here to assist you through your processes, through your life. Even when you're making choices that may have not been the best, you're still divinely protected because you are loved and you are seen for who you are. And there's a bigger, I'm trying to think of the words to describe something that I feel inside of me, but there's like a bigger plan. Like if you've ever seen that movie, and I've been thinking about this movie for a few days now, but The Adjustment Bureau. And it's like they talk about the director's plan. And I find it really fascinating because there was like an original plan and then it got rewritten. But because I think Matt Damon's in it, he had this pull and this tug to this girl, and he's just like, I don't care what it is, what obstacles you put into my way. This is where I know this is my person. Like, I'm going to be there. So what I'm trying to say is when you connect, and now I'm seeing the image of like the red string of fate, whether it be a person, whether it be something that you want in your life that just, you don't understand why, but you have this feeling in you, like, I feel like I'm connected to this and I want to see it through. Go for it. See how the doors open, see how they close, see how it flows for you, and move in accordance with the grand creator and ask to be shown, ask to be aligned to that frequency, ask to be guided, because through divine protection, you can do things that are out of this world. And I only say this because I feel like for a very long time, even when I was a kid, I remember like riding in my mom's car. We'd be out and about and it'd be nighttime. And I could remember the moon being out in the clouds and just having conversation with God, like asking, how are you today? How was your day? And just asking questions. And I remember just always thinking, everybody's always asking God for something, but how is God? How does God feel like? And I remember just having those type of thoughts in my head as a child. And every time I would start my prayer, I'd make it a point to ask how God was doing. Like, how are you today? I hope you had a good day. I hope you're doing good. And then I would just like open up about the things that were going on with me. And you know, I'm a kid. I didn't realize that people prayed. Well, I did realize because I just told you guys, I realized to some degree, like I always saw like prayer as something where people are always asking for things, but never really trying to tune into how God is like, how God felt. And that was something I was always curious about as a kid. And I'm trying to like connect back to why am I sharing this? Oh, I'm sharing this because I feel like I was doing things because it felt right for me. And even if it didn't make sense to people outside of me, I still did it because I felt like it was something I wanted to do and connect to in a way that felt right for me. And then I would open up and let God know my struggles, like what I was thinking as a little kid, what I needed help with, like, and then I felt like, okay, now I could ask for something, which is kind of funny, but it's like, how are you just going to straight up ask but not see how they're doing? And now as an adult, I kind of chuckle and laugh because I remember asking for like, help me have a Hello Kitty connection when I grow up. And I did get that. I had like the bed sheets, the pillows, and all this stuff. And I remember my room in high school was like decked out in Hello Kitty. And I remember I would pray for that as a kid. But the reason I'm connecting to this, to divine protection, is because if you allow yourself to let your heart guide you, and what I mean is not by little things or something that's just for the moment, like something that you desire deeply and that you feel like this is the thing I'd like to connect to. And if you can open the doors through prayer, through intention settings, through actively working towards these goals, you're letting a divine energy hear, tune into, and feel your intentions, feel your goals. And when you're asking to be aligned with those frequencies, if this is for your higher good, you allow for divine protection to come in, and that looks differently. So I can honestly say, for me, when I was first starting to do Reiki, I would pray about it, and for the longest time I was on the fence about it, because I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to financially be able to afford this? Excuse me. But that year I happened to do my taxes. I got a tax return, and my Reiki master happened to have a special going on with paying up front for Reiki's level 1, 2, and 3. And I have the money for my tax returns. So that was divinely aligned in a way where I could take the courses. And I remember before I even signed up for the course, I was actually getting to see one of my friends graduate and become a lawyer. And I was like literally crying at her graduation ceremony because she inspired me to go after my dreams. Because I can remember when we would be working together and she would be working full-time, going to school, and then having to step down from full-time to part-time, but still going to school, and then studying and having to really, really like draw back and do the hard work so that she can be where she needed to be. And she got there. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, she did it. Like, she did this. And that kind of gave me that kick in the ass of like, girl, just fucking go after it. I think I told her, like, you inspired me. Thank you. It was just such a pleasure to get to see her live out her dreams. And I said, life is too short to not go after the things that are really, really lighting me up. I was so on the fence about it because I'm like, I'm not sure if this is something I can do. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Like, a lot of doubt and a lot of fear came in. But I feel like this is also a message as of recently. Don't let your mind get in the way of things. Do the research, look it up, and start slowly planning for the things that you really want for yourself. And do it in a way that supports you. And call in a higher power to align you with that frequency and that energy so you're not feeling like you're going at all of this by yourself. You don't need to know how it's going to all work out. But if you can feel it and you know that it feels true in your heart, and you know that while you're sitting in meditation or doing prayer or actively having a conversation with the grand creator, the universe, source, your team in spirit, in the angelic realm, and you can feel that frequency come in of certainty, trust it. But move in a way that feels right to you. It's funny because today I had 2 Mormon kids knock at our door. And I had never, in the time that we lived here, I think it's almost been a little over 10 years for sure, I've never had anybody who was Mormon knock at the door. So I found it interesting. I had a Jehovah's Witness before, which was a interesting conversation, but they happened to ask me like, hi, they're like, we're just walking around, wanting to talk about the Word of God. And I find it funny that today's the day I'm recording my podcast episode and this happened to me, but I thought it was a really interesting conversation because they had asked me, oh, do you believe in God? And I go, yeah, I believe in God. And I straight out told them, I go, probably not the one that's in your book, but I believe that there's a grand creator, and I believe in the universe, and I believe the planets have a consciousness, and that nature has a consciousness, and that it's everywhere, and encapsulating. And one of the kids looked at me like, what? And the other one kind of was like, shooketh, but in a good way, because he seemed interested. He goes, oh, wow, that's interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more? And so like he kept asking questions. And I was just telling him, I connect with nature. I connect with the cosmos, and I connect with the grand creator. And they had asked, well, do you pray to this grand creator? And I go, I give thanks. And I ask to be aligned with the highest frequency that I can be. And I think it tripped them out, because when I use words like frequency, one of the kids was actually interested, while the other one was just like, what is this lady talking about? But I can obviously sense and feel and see who was open and receptive for it and who wasn't. And so it was kind of funny having this conversation, because it made me realize how much I changed. Because I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. I used to knock on people's doors and look to have Bible study for people. And that was when I was in my teens. And that's a whole different story. But I can sympathize for somebody who's out here in the heat. It's summertime heat. It's like 90 plus degrees. And, they're doing what feels right for them. And I wasn't trying to be rude. If anything, I was just trying to answer their questions and listen. And what's funny, I think I shook one of the kids, because he asked me, he goes, well, you mentioned frequency. What do you mean frequency? And I said, he goes, is there like music you can listen to? And I go, yeah, there's binaural beats you can tune into. I go, your frequency, I'm frequency. We all emit a frequency. And this is something that you can tap into through prayer and meditation. And he was just like looking at me, and he was just like, like if I was speaking a language he could understand. While the other guy was like, I don't know what this lady is saying. Like, she's speaking Dutch right now, and I'm trying to communicate in English. But it was really cool. I offered them water. They said thank you. It was a really nice conversation for less than 5 minutes. But it's funny how these little situations kind of aligned me to help me see where I am now, and kind of showed me back then. It was like a mirror. And I could see how much growth I've had from then to now, and how my mental state has changed. And being able to talk about this type of feeling or connection that I have, and not feel weird about it. A little nervous to be asked, well, what do you believe in? I didn't expect that. But it was kind of a nice conversation, because it just reflected back to me where I am now. And what I mean by that is, like, life is going to take you through some roads, some U-turns, some crazy highways, some four-way stops, some roundabouts that don't make sense. But when you get to one of the destinations that's on your road trip of life, you're going to be able to see all those stops, all those curbs that you kind of hit, and those bump in the roads, those flat tires. And you can come to a space where you're just like, the whole time, there's this energy there protecting me from real harm, in a way where I got to live a life that allowed me to have this wisdom and this knowledge now. Even through the trials and tribulations, I'm able to see how far I've come. And then when you set off to your next destination, you have the wisdom of what it's like to change your own tire. Now you have AAA, because you're at a different state and your bank account's changed, and you can afford to pay that little extra every month to make sure you have those services, so you're not going at this alone. And what that translates to is, maybe you have a Reiki practitioner you like to go to for energy healing when you need it. Maybe you have therapy sessions every so often, so that you can calibrate and really be held accountable for your goals, or to just express the heavy things that have been weighing on your heart. Or you have a dedicated practice that helps you express yourself. But one way or another, there are a lot of things in this world that are here to support you. And while you are helping yourself, like, help the divine help you. Speak out what you like, even if you don't know how it's going to unfold. But if you feel like it's truth in your heart, let God know. Let the angels come in. Let divine protection guide you. And know that it's here to support you in more ways than one. And I say all of this because I've had moments in my life where I've felt completely alone. And then the next thing I know, I get a phone call. Or the next thing I know, the stranger at work says something to me the next day that speaks volumes to the situation I was feeling. Or a friend just says, hey, I felt your energy. And I shit you not. Oh, this is another one because it just came back. I remember not last year, but the year before, we were in Costa Rica and we had just landed our plane. And we were trying to figure out the rental car situation. And I couldn't book online because for whatever reason in Costa Rica, the rental car services that I normally use weren't allowing me to rent online. So it's like I had to do it in person. And then they had their own rental companies that I wasn't familiar with. And I wanted to go with one that I knew I've rented from before and I know what to expect. So we're doing this whole thing where we had to take an Uber or Lyft from the airport. But even before the airport, there was all these people trying to come up to us like, hey, we got you. We can have you rent a car. We got you. Like, don't worry. Like, we'll get our shuttle bus and we'll take you over here and you can rent a car like super, super cheap. Mind you, before we got out of the airport, we were in customs. And I remember seeing like, don't get into any taxis that aren't this color and watch out for scams. And I'm just like, oh, this does not feel right at all. So when they kept hounding us and coming around us, I was like, nah, forget that. So we ended up getting an Uber or Lyft to go find a rental car company. And we get out, we're renting this car. And through the process of it, like, we have our luggage, we're unpacking, we're in the rental place, and they barely have one car. And it's like this 4-seater, barely hatchback. Like, it's barely going to fit all of our luggages because it was 4 of us. And I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, my anxiety and my stress levels are high. So anyways, we're doing all this stuff. And at one point I realized while we're signing the paperwork, my phone's gone. I left my phone in the freaking Uber or Lyft. And I'm freaking out. I'm bugging out. And my husband's like, oh my God, what's happening? What's this? And I'm just like, dude, I don't know what's going on. Like, this is so crazy. And I'm just stressed the hell out. And so then I literally want to cry. I wanted to cry in the lobby of that freaking rental car place because I'm like, we just got here. Like, my vacation cannot start off like this by me losing my phone in a foreign country. On top of that, I don't know what's going on. So like, luckily I got on my husband's phone. I was able to do a thing where you can report your phone's lost or stolen, whatever, and see if we can call the Lyft driver, the Uber driver, and see if they can come back. He was not answering at all. And at this point, I'm just like, well, shoot, I guess that's it. I lost my phone. It is what it is. Hopefully it doesn't get into the wrong hands. And I'm really upset and I'm so tired. And so we start heading to go stay at our Airbnb. And we're like driving around San Jose, Costa Rica. And it's like crazy because the streets are so wild, they're different. And we get to our Airbnb and I felt like we just paid for something that was not advertised truthfully in any shape, form, or way. So I'm pissed. I'm so mad and so upset. I lost my phone. Then we're at this Airbnb that looks hella sketch. It's like a hotel, but it's in the middle of the city and the parking is like 2 blocks away by where there's other buses are at, and it doesn't feel safe at all. And I told my husband, I said, I'm not staying here. I am not staying here. Like, we got to book something else. Like, I will pay for it out of my pocket. I do not care. I'm not staying at this place. It does not feel safe. It feels hella sketch. So as we're driving around, we finally found parking, and I started to book a different Airbnb that's closer to the airport and looks way nicer and is like private and legit is nice and has good reviews. And so I think it was like less than $80 for the night. And I said, I will pay this out of pocket. I do not care. Like, this is wild. And so we start to head out to go to that Airbnb. And the next thing you know, we get a phone call on his phone, and it's the guy from the rental car place. And he's like, hey, is this Lizzie? And I'm like, yeah, this is her. He goes, the Lyft driver is here with your phone. And if you want to come back, I just didn't feel comfortable giving him your phone number. And I was just like, no, that's okay. Please tell him to wait. We'll head back. And it like worked out to where we ended up going back to the rental car place. I tipped the guy like $20 American because I was so freaking thankful that my phone came back to me. We had to pay a fee anyways for having the driver get over there, but I was just so grateful and thankful that he brought my phone. And so we got my phone, we headed out to the other Airbnb. It was such a better vibe. And I realized like everything was hitting the fan and I was so overwhelmed. And then my friend calls me and she's like, hey, are you okay? And I said, why, what's up? And she goes, dude, I felt my heart hurt. And I thought of you and I said, I need to make sure you're okay. And I started like literally crying. And I explained everything to her and I said, thank you for calling me. So this is what I mean, that sometimes divine protection can come in different ways. Like you may feel like everything's chaotic, but it's pushing it around and reworking the plan that you may have that may not make sense at the time. But when you look back, you can see it being like something bigger came in to help you. I did not feel safe in that Airbnb. We changed it. I was so overwhelmed with my phone missing, but it came back to me. And I think the rental car guy felt so bad. He like down the charges on the rental too from what they could have been. Like he had so much sympathy for me being like so upset over losing my phone in the freaking driver's car. And so it ended up working out. And I feel like that was the worst part of the trip. And we got over that hump and we had a really good trip. But the fact that I'm going back to how sometimes divine protection can come in and support us in this physical realm by somebody outside of us just recognizing that we're not okay and trusting their intuition and that gut feeling of saying like, I need to call this person. So if you ever feel that, trust it. Trust it because there might be something bigger trying to work through you to support somebody who's having a hard time. And you may have not known that if you didn't take that nudge or trust that feeling in you. Trust that feeling in you. And so I just wanted to talk about this topic on a whole nother level because I feel like I've had divine protection in my life on a multitude of levels. It doesn't always have to be like something drastic or crazy coming at me, but it could just be as simple as having a really fucked up vacation experience at the beginning and ending with feeling like my best friend knew I wasn't okay. And I came to her mind and she talked me down my emotional edge, let's put it that way, and helped me regulate by her just holding space and letting me just talk about the shit that just went down and just really, really holding space for me in a way that helped me feel seen, heard, understood, and loved. And so now I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the cards because I feel like that's a good note to end this podcast episode on. And I didn't want to make it super, super long, but I feel like I did anyways. But today I just want to ask for a timeless message that can help support you guys for the weeks to come and to realign you to the energy that is true for you, that can support you. I usually shuffle the deck and just ask for that. And then when I hear from my team like, oh, do the 3, then I'll do shuffle 3 more. Okay, moving things around, shuffle things energetically. And so I'm just going to go ahead and request. Ooh, I'll probably end up editing this out. We'll see. That's 1, 2, 3. And the card for you guys is Sacred Plan. How befitting. How befitting to this podcast episode. I'm glad I shuffled live so that you know this is for you guys. So the message of Sacred Plan is, this card doesn't represent the plan that God has for you, for your life. This card doesn't, I'm sitting in a dark living room trying to read this book, and I have to turn on the flashlight to my phone to actually get this out for you guys. So, okay, let's go with the message. It says, this card doesn't represent the plan that God has for your life, more the plan that comes to fruition based on your intentions and your highest good. You are being given the incredible gift of free will, and therefore your thoughts, deeds, actions, and intentions are in some way going out into the universe and curating the experiences, opportunities, and energies that are flowing in and out of your life. When this card appears, you're being encouraged to move into a state of surrender, where you recognize that yes, your intentions have an impact on the creation of your life, but how those intentions unfold is not down to you, but in the hands of God. The divine plan is your intentions unfolding in a way that God, the universe, feels is for your growth and your highest good. Know that every experience you have been through in your life has been a waymaker on your journey towards growth and expansion, and your angels are acknowledging your growth now. If you're trying to force a plan into action, the angelic guidance is to back down and trust in the greater good. Often when something isn't happening for us, we're frustrated, but that's only because we don't see our perfect plan is unfolding. When your ideas or plans go wrong, trust that the universe has a greater plan for you. What was I just talking about? What did I share this whole damn podcast episode about? Anyways, I digress. Let's continue. When your ideas or plans go wrong, trust that the universe has a greater plan for you, and that greater plan isn't something that has already been chosen for you. It's more of an accumulation of all of your life's intentions, prayers, and actions washing back toward you with opportunities and experiences. Call on your angels to light up the path ahead. You may feel that you are facing the unknown, but know that you are always guided and protected. So, mic drop. Just kidding. But I feel like this card really encompassed what this podcast episode was about, and having you really understand that divine protection and a sacred plan go hand in hand. Your intentions, your desires, your heartfelt desires that are something that is calling to you. It's for a reason. Surrender, and something my team has always said to me is trust, believe, and achieve. Connect with the higher power. I know it works because it works for me. And even like I said, when sometimes it gets difficult and it's chaotic, it's for a big reason. I channeled these messages because I feel like this is an important message that needs to get out right now. And I want to be able to support you in a way that grounds you into becoming more of you. So if this podcast episode hit your feels, if it brought out some memories, if you feel like you like to share how this hit your field of awareness, if you're on a platform where you can leave a review, a comment, I invite you to do so. If you're not on that type of platform, know that I have my YouTube channel, my Instagram, and TikTok. I'm on all of those platforms. So please hit me up on there. Share your experiences. I would love to hear from you. And that aside, I'm gonna end it now because I could talk forever. But love you guys. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in today. To stay up to date on all my happenings and offerings, I invite you to follow me on my YouTube channel and Instagram, which is at Spark The Heartz with the Z at the end. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one, please see the links to my booking page and website on the show notes of this episode. Thank you again for tuning in, and I look forward to our next gathering. Bye for now.